Today's episode comes with a trigger warning for sexual assault survivors. If you share this, social media, text messages, WhatsApp, whatever it is, please include the trigger warning. You do not know what the next person who is going to see it has gone through. As we've seen, there is a culture of silence around these types of things. You just don't know. So why not put it out there? Trigger warning, sexual assault. Let's get into the interview with Rick Westhead.
Why come forward now? You know, putting your name out there, being on television, this is a big decision. And I wonder what your thought process was leading up to this point and why you want to do this.
It's a big step for me in my process of recovery, as I process the events that happened, and as I truly deal with the underlying issues that I have from them. For me, I wanted to come forward and put my name on this. Partially, I'll be honest, it's already out there. The details were pretty accurate in the report, and it's been figured out. But more than that, I've been a survivor. I am a survivor, and I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not the only one, male or female. And I buried this for 10 years, 11 years. And it's destroyed me from the inside out. And I want everybody to know, in the sports world and in the world, that you're not alone. That if these things happen to you, you need to speak up, because there is support systems like Sheldon Kennedy, like the U.S. gymnastics team, like the USA soccer. There is support systems. There is people that are with you. And I hope that this entire process can make a systematic change to make sure this never happens again. Because it not only affected me as a young adult and now as a 31-year-old man, but it also affected kids because it was not handled in the correct and proper way.
The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
We're honored today to bring on Rick Westhead again. We had Rick, I think it's got to be 2-3 months ago now.
In the summer.
And Rick, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. And obviously the biggest story in hockey is the story that you have been working so hard on, and other reporters like yourself, everything that's happened with, we can now name Kyle Beach and the Chicago Blackhawks and the NHLPA. There's so much to get through. But first off, how are you doing?
It's one of those weeks where you're just living on adrenaline, and you're working till 1:30 in the morning, and your body's like, it's time to get up at 2:30 or 3.
Wow. And
yeah, so it's been tough because the stakes are so high, you can't afford to get any of this wrong.
Yeah.
Kyle has deserved it. John Doe too, the former high school player, and his family deserve the best of us. And, it's just one of those stories. You just know everyone is watching, and some people are waiting for you to make a mistake, and we'll seize on that. And so, I've been paranoid since about Sunday afternoon on this, but anyway, I'm glad it's Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As though weekends matter in your world.
Right. Can we, as if there's anywhere to start. Well, I guess number one, you texted us this morning. You're like, don't worry, I'll come on your podcast and I won't be in a barn this time. So I thought that was very good. But do we go back to, which day should we go back to? Should we go back to Sunday of this week or Tuesday? Because Tuesday, I think it was the Jenner and Block report.
Yeah, that's right. The Jenner and Block report came out on Tuesday. And it was a tough day. My boy was at Sick Kids, and we were getting some scans and just a little bit on edge. And then all of a sudden we find out that, this report's coming out, and I was managing my expectations. It's not as if the NHL and the Blackhawks to this point had been a fount of transparency. And so, when I got the Zoom link and started listening to this investigator, Reed Shar, a former assistant U.S. attorney, talk a little bit about, what his findings were and his team had found, the more he talked, the more I just couldn't believe what I was hearing, that they were putting it all out there. The context for this is important, guys. It wasn't that long ago that the Blackhawks were responding to the lawsuit by saying, yeah, nothing here, nothing to see. We did our own investigation. There's no merit to this. They were calling Kyle Beach and John Doe too liars. And now here we were on Tuesday with, this full laid out report. I was blown away. I'm still speechless about how transparent they were, because it doesn't always happen this way. Right? When teams fall under critical glare, I tried to point out a lot in the early days, the Dallas Mavericks, when they were accused of having a toxic culture, the team did the same thing. They posted the complete report. But like I said, that hasn't always happened. It didn't happen with the Washington NFL team when they were investigated for, what happened there with cheerleaders and sexual harassment. Mm-hmm. So, who knew what was going to happen? And I'm grateful to Shar. Maybe that was one of the terms when he took it on, was I'll only do this if you make it public. Let's hope so.
Well, and it I think at that point too, even as a from the law perspective, it would be a blight on their firm if they didn't come out with all that information, right? They'd look like they were in cahoots with the Blackhawks. It's not good for them.
Which is what some people suspected from the beginning.
Right. And obviously, Rick, from what we've seen, the truth seems to be a pretty hard thing to tackle when it comes to the NHL and its institutions. So, we got to remind everybody that there was an investigation done. Blackhawks did it 10 years ago plus and said Kyle Beach was a liar. And now, obviously, the report comes out, and Rick, your reaction to that is, like, as a reporter who has been on this story for this long, do you feel any sense of accomplishment? Like, what goes through your mind at that point?
It was all overwhelming. I didn't actually feel a sense of accomplishment at all. I felt like, don't screw this up. 109 pages of very dense legal information to work your way through. So it was sobering. The responsibility of getting all that right. And it's, at the same time, I'll confess, I felt a little bit anxious because I thought, well, I've been the only one on this story for so long. And now I'm seeing all the competitors going through the report and tweeting out parts of it and rushing to be first with the news of it. It was really welcome to the party. Mm-hmm. And there was a moment where I thought, oh, well, maybe I should start being more aggressive in posting. And then I tried to force myself. I don't know if I did this well enough, but just to pull back, and remind myself, it doesn't matter if you're first, it matters if you're right. And I think that's sort of a lesson that gets lost a little bit. And I fail to live up to that sometimes. But on this, the stakes were too high to get any of it wrong.
Can you walk us through the 24 hours after that? Because the surprise for all of us, and we've become friends since we talked to you for the first time, and that sort of thing. But at that point, obviously, you must have been inundated. I sent you a message, didn't expect to hear back or anything. But obviously, in that 24-hour period, there must have been for Kyle I don't know if it happened in that 24-hour period or if he thought about being public about this. I wanted to know behind the scenes if that decision was made after the report, and then at that point you're going into TSN and you're recording this interview after that press conference, which at the time I thought this is the most unbelievable piece of I've never seen anything like this. And then the next day at 6:00, my girlfriend and I are sitting in the kitchen watching on my iPhone. You interview Kyle Beach, and not a word was said. We didn't change. We didn't do anything. So can you walk us through the 24 hours after the report happened to the interview and the interview itself?
Okay. So I'm filing for Sports Center for the findings of the report. And I hadn't, at that point on Tuesday, I've never talked to Kyle before. In the summer, if you remember, I did a story for TSN interviewing him, but the interview was via email and through his attorney. So I've always known who he is. I've known that John Doe 1 was Kyle Beach, but obviously, as I've said before, we have a policy at TSN. We do not name survivors of abuse without their permission. And I didn't have it till just recently. So, I'd done a story in the summer, and after the report finding, after the Sports Center taping, I've talked with his attorney, Susan Loggins, quite a bit about whether it'd be cathartic for him to come public and tell people his story. Because, one of the things I remember, Luke Prokop comes out and there's an outpouring, a wave of support, thank goodness for him, from all corners of the hockey world, players, teams, agents, networks, everyone, media, everyone is in his corner. How many people up until Wednesday have been in Kyle's corner? Have you guys seen one active NHL player say, I support John Doe? No. And I went through that roster and I tried to get all of those guys to talk, including the players in Rockford. So, a lot of players. No one talked. They circled the wagons, culture of silence. So how alone must he have felt, not just over the last 11 years, but even this summer when his court case was working its way through the system? And I said to Susan, his lawyer, on Tuesday, I think this is the moment. I think you should go to Kyle and say, do you want to do the interview? And so she talked to him, and Kyle talked to his mom, who's in British Columbia, about this. And then they went back and talked to him again, because, there's no takebacks on this. Once your name is out there, it's out there forever. And the last thing that he messaged his attorney on Tuesday night was a very brief text message when she said to him, are you sure? It's okay if you want to pull out. Do you have second thoughts? And his message back to his attorney on Tuesday night was, I'm Kyle Beach. I'm a survivor. I'm going to make a change. Wow. And so then, he and I talked Tuesday night very briefly, and arranged to do this Wednesday morning. And I didn't sleep then. And so Wednesday I get to work, and, normally in our business, you do a pre-interview with somebody to go over the scope of what you're going to talk about, and just to make things smoother. And in this case, I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to do this raw so that I could let him go where he wanted to go. And I would be respectful of him taking pauses. If he needed time to get through an answer, I didn't want to be charging on to the next question. Oh, what happened next? I wanted to give him his moment, which he's deserved for 11 years. And so, we do the interview, and I'm shaky, and I'm trying just to focus on making sure I don't screw it up. And we made it through. Mm-hmm. He was amazing. He is amazing.
Kyle, where do you go from here? You've now talked publicly about this. Do you have any sense for how, and you talked about how this will affect you for the rest of your life. How do you take something so horrible and try to find something positive in that? Whether it's serving, the public or reaching out to other abuse survivors. Have you thought about where you go from here?
To be honest, I haven't had the chance. This is all so fresh. But the one thing that I want to make sure that comes from this is change. I want to make sure in any way possible that this does not happen to somebody else, because it will happen again. I will not be the only one. Whether it's in hockey, soccer, any sport, any business, any company, there needs to be a system in place that it gets dealt with, and that it's somebody making the decision to deal with it that has no skin in the game. Because if this would have been reported to somebody other than John McDonough or Joel Quenneville or Stan Bowman that didn't have skin in the game of winning a Stanley Cup, it would have been dealt with, and it would have protected all of the survivors that came after me. So I would love to be able to help. I would love to be able to advocate. I would love to be able to support survivors in coming out and coming forward. I'd love to be there in any way possible. And I would love to be a part of a group that really comes up and designs a system to make sure that there is a safe place in the sports world, and that there is a safe place that every child or adult, male or female, can go if they are in trouble or if they feel uncomfortable, where they won't be judged and they won't have to go through what I did.
Was one of the most unbelievably emotional watches I think any of us have ever seen. And, you know, the outpouring of support afterwards, I think, Rick, I think you nailed it. It was the moment. It was the time. And, you know, Kyle Beach blew everybody away. It was unbelievable, the strength that it took, the openness. And, you know, what's been interesting since is, you know, he sent out a message on his social media. And one of the things that stuck out to me, and obviously he thanked everybody for their support, thanked his family for the support and everything. But Rick, he talked about how the Blackhawks are still trying to destroy his case in court. And there was a piece of the Wirtz-Shar press conference that stuck out to me in about minute 16, which was the Wirtz family, you know, Danny and Rocky both say, I think it's Danny Wirtz that says, you know, we still believe that we have a strong legal case here, but we've instructed our lawyers to go and settle this for John Doe 1, John Doe 2, and I believe somebody else. And so I think a lot of people want to know what that meant because for Kyle Beach, because he said that the Blackhawks are still trying to destroy him in court. What we've heard from the Blackhawks is they're trying to settle this. Do you have any idea about where this stands? And, you know, because this is about restitution. This is about the only way to make this good, that it's never going to make him whole again. But the only way to do that is through money. Are the Blackhawks really going to pursue this in court? Have they misled us? Where does that stand?
So for people who haven't been following the case very closely, I reported recently that the lawyers for Kyle Beach went to court and asked for the right to immediately take the deposition of Jim Gary. Gary, for people who've been watching, is the Blackhawks at the time mental skills coach and counselor. And the plaintiffs said in their court motion that they needed to take his deposition. He had critical information to share, and circumstances had changed so that they needed that deposition right now, immediately. What we came to understand in the report that was issued on Tuesday is that Jim Gary, in his role as the official Chicago Blackhawks mental skills coach, was routinely sending pornography to players in an attempt to build up a closer bond with them. In the context of Kyle Beach's sexual assault, he may have some very interesting information to offer. The information that he gave in the report can't be introduced in court necessarily because those documents, that document, the report itself, is not, includes sworn testimony. So the Blackhawks, hours after Danny Wirtz and Rocky Wirtz go on, this broadcast and say, we're very sorry, and we're going to, commit to having our legal team try to reach a settlement with Kyle. The very day, the team files a motion trying to block that immediate deposition. Why? Why don't they want Jim Gary deposed right now? We don't know exactly. But I guess for me, it raises a question. If you're committed to doing the right thing for Kyle and you're committed to a search for the truth, why would you do this in the first place? The Blackhawks said we had to file it on that day because we were meeting a briefing schedule deadline. You miss it and you don't file, who cares? Give the plaintiffs that one. Why not take the deposition of Jim Gary right now and get it on the record if the circumstances have changed? So it leaves me wondering, why would the Blackhawks be saying they're committed to settlement and then blocking something like that, which is just trying to get someone on the record?
So to confirm a timeline, the Blackhawks delaying Jim Gary's deposition, that decision came down after their press conference with Jenner and Block.
That's right. They filed the motion in court hours after that report was released, asking the court to deny that request to get that deposition done immediately.
What is the motivation for the Wirtz family to fight this and to prove, like, I don't know what they're trying to prove. Like, what is their end goal here to diminish Kyle Beach? What do they gain from that?
Can we get Danny Wirtz to join the podcast right now?
Not likely.
Rick, I don't think so.
You'd think their mentality at the end of all of this, they saw the exact same things that we saw would be to do right by Kyle, like they said in their words, but their actions clearly don't reflect that. So I just don't know what their end goal is.
You know, this is not the first time, as you point this out. Like, Sheldon Kennedy likes to say, this is a systemic problem in hockey. Akeem Aliu, who says his career was railroaded by racism within the Blackhawks organization,
the same year,
promised an investigation 2 years ago. He's still sitting and waiting for the results of that. Why? Tell me, based on that, why should anyone have any faith in the process? And I know that sounds aggressive. I get it. But honest question. If you're Akeem Aliu or anyone who knows him, why would you take this seriously when there's a pledge of transparency? Follow through on what you say, man.
Wow.
Trying to think of, this has been the longest week ever. And I'm sure for you even more so. So I'm trying to think of where to go here. I know Kyle Beach has an interview with Gary Bettman coming, one with Donald Fehr coming. Bettman had an interview with Joel Quenneville that has resulted in Joel Quenneville's resignation as head coach of the Florida Panthers. And he had an interview with Kevin Cheveldayoff, who it looks like will face no further punishment.
Did he face punishment, by the way?
Can he?
No. Did Chevy face any punishment?
No.
No.
It looks like no.
So it's funny because he said no further punishment. You weren't punished.
Well, okay, so no punishment.
Yeah.
Flatly.
Yeah.
Do you have any reaction to any of that? And do you know if Kyle has reaction to any of that?
Not yet. What do you think Gary Bettman and Don Fehr want to say to Kyle? What's the point of this meeting right now?
I'd love to know.
I would love to know that.
And it's important to know that both of them initiated with Kyle. They requested these meetings. That's a great question, Rick.
What do you think,
I would love
Rick?
to know.
I don't have an opinion. I just think that
yeah, but what if you did?
the NHL, if for people who want to see it, the NHL time and again has shown its true colors about how it feels about employees and active and retired players. This is not a new song they're singing. Here's another example. When you retire from the NHL, you have a limited period of time to buy in and into their retirement benefits package. You know how much that costs? You have to have played 160 games in the league. So let's say you played 180 games career. I don't know how much money that's you made in your career, but those healthcare premiums are between $1,000 and $3,000 every month. So you're 30 years old, you finish your career. How many guys living in the States can afford to pay $2,000 to $3,000 a month for the rest of their life for health insurance? And on one hand, you could say, well, that's fair. These guys didn't play a lot of games. Should they be entitled to lifetime coverage? Maybe not. But if that's your position, then why are you selling this as a family? Why every time, the NHL has a chance to post on social about a milestone for a player or a remembrance of a player who's died, the NHL family would like to honor this person or that person. Just call it what it is. It's a business. NHL, limited or corporation or whatever. It's a for-profit business, and that's fine, right? I work for Bell. Bell's not family. It's a business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I don't know if I'm getting off on a tangent here, sorry, but
go for it.
One of the issues I think that people maybe might want to think about a little bit more is the language that the league uses to sell itself to the public, and whether its actions are backed up by that language.
So one of the things too here that there's so much that came out of the Kyle Beach interview, Rick, but one of the things is, what did you asked the question, Kyle, what would you say to the young man now but teenager at the time who was raped by Brad Aldrich?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't do more when I could to make sure it didn't happen to him, to protect him. But I also want to say thank you to him, because when I decided, after a teammate asked me about it when I was playing overseas, and I decided to Google Brad Aldrich's name, that's when I found out about the Michigan individual, the Michigan team. And because of what happened to him, it gave me the power and the sense of urgency to take action to make sure it wouldn't happen to anybody else. So I'm sorry, and I thank you.
Kyle.
And I hope at some point down the road, if he's open to it, I would love to meet him, because unfortunately we share something in common that's going to be a part of us for the rest of our lives.
Let's just take a sec here. Sorry. Kyle,
what would you say to him now?
It's the most gut-wrenching part of the entire thing.
It was so hard to watch. And, Kyle said, I'd like to speak to him. I'd like to sit down with him. I'd like to, have dinner with him. And, one of the things that I think has gotten lost in all this is we've all talked about Kyle Beach, but there was a boy who is now a man and a family changed forever by what Brad Aldrich did after his time with the Blackhawks when he was a coach in Michigan. What is the update on that story? I wish I could have a more pointed question, but where do we stand there?
I'm glad we're talking about him, because, we need to remember when we talk about believe survivors, we need to believe him. It's easy to forget about him because he's John Doe too. In the same way that many people didn't pay attention to this story about Kyle Beach when he was John Doe 1. But his life has forever been affected by this. And we need to collectively, even if we don't know who he is, send him this message that, if and when you do want to share your story, or even if you don't, we believe you. It was wrong. You deserve accountability. You deserve justice. I know Brad Aldrich went to jail for all of 9 months and did 60 months of probation. This young man deserves real justice. He deserves healing. He deserves, the NHL we know wants to sit down with Kyle Beach tomorrow and talk, or on Saturday, and talk a little bit about what's happened. I don't know exactly what they're going to say. But why isn't the NHL trying to get a message to John Doe too? Surely the NHL could say, we need to make sure that young guy is looked after, that he has the care, the medical care that he needs for as long as it takes, because he may not have played in the NHL. He was a 16-year-old hockey player when he was abused by Brad Aldrich. Doesn't he deserve that after what's happened, after an NHL team did what they did? Isn't the right thing for the league to say, we take responsibility. We have every bill you could ever need paid to get yourself in a better space. Who disagrees with that?
Nobody.
My question is, I don't know if this is inappropriate to ask, but is it, has there been contact between the camps? Is there healing here? Kyle seemed so earnest in his answer. if so much of this is so dark, the one bright spot would be those two being able to at least have a communication. I don't know if you're able to talk about it, Rick.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I can tell you, I've been in communication with the young man's mother, and by text message, and he's having a really hard time, and he needs to feel the love from people and not be forgotten. And I think there'll be a time for him to meet Kyle. I don't think it's that time yet. I think this is all still raw for both of them. I'm no expert. I'm a reporter, right? I have no training on any of this, but maybe in the same way that I just had a feeling that this was the right moment to do the interview with Kyle, maybe the people who are Kyle's support network and this boy's support network, maybe they'll come to that conclusion down the road. This is the right moment. Let's have some hope that happens.
There's so much to go through here. Obviously, we saw what happened with Joel Quenneville, who said, I didn't know about this until the allegations were filed. Of course, we know now that wasn't the case. Stan Bowman's piece, where he doesn't mention Kyle Beach at all, doesn't apologize to Kyle Beach at all, passes the buck to John McDonough. We've heard nothing from John McDonough. I could ask you for your reaction, all that stuff, but I'm fairly sure I know what that would be. The one thing for this, and if it's not outright discussed, I don't know. I don't think there's any other way to feel in the way those people have responded. But the thing that has blown me away in all of this, that just mind-boggling, is the connection with Donald Fehr and the inaction by the NHLPA. Now, you've just released some more information on this, but I was hoping you could talk about, for people that may have missed this, because there's been such an explosion of information, it's hard for the average person to possibly go through every detail. So Kyle Beach never played an actual NHL game in the regular season, therefore was not technically a member of the NHLPA, although when this incident occurred, he was on a roster. He was on the Chicago Blackhawks roster. What happened then when it was reported to the NHLPA, and Donald Fehr is under enormous fire and pressure right now, rightly so. Can you explain to somebody that doesn't understand what's going on here, the basis of this, and then, of course, the new things that have come to light today?
Well, the NHLPA takes as its responsibility the care of players. This is what the NHLPA, their mission is. And so what Kyle told me is that in late 2010, early 2011, right around Christmas, he came to understand that Brad Aldrich, who had been cut loose by the Blackhawks 6 months earlier, was working with the U.S. national team. It turns out the women's under-19 team. They played the first week of January 2011 in a tournament in Stockholm. And Kyle was very upset by this. He wanted to try to, make sure that this sexual predator was not getting access to other teenagers. So he asked his agent at the time to contact the NHLPA and to ask them to get a message to USA Hockey. You've got a sexual predator on your staff. So the agent talked to Don Fehr, and Don says he doesn't remember this conversation, by the way. And Don told him, I've got contacts at USA Hockey. I'll get them the message. Kyle was then referred by the NHLPA to a psychologist in Toronto named Dr. Brian Shaw, who's one of the program administrators with the Player Assistance Program. And Kyle told him everything. He told him about what Brad Aldrich had done to him. And he asked Dr. Shaw to commit to getting that same warning to USA Hockey. Dr. Shaw agreed, Kyle says. That never happened. Don Fehr and Dr. Shaw did not send that message to USA Hockey. And we know that 3 years later, in 2013, Brad Aldrich sexually assaulted a 16-year-old boy in Michigan. And as Kyle said to me, if the PA people had done the right thing, that boy would not have been raped.
So one thing that has been brought up on this show several times is Brad Aldrich was with the 2010 Olympic team. And the one thing I always clarify is yes, but that was before this incident with Kyle Beach. The following year, though, you're saying he was still with USA Hockey, which I don't think I've heard it mentioned throughout the months that this story has been going on.
Not once. I haven't heard it.
Do you know if Stan Bowman was involved with USA Hockey at the time?
I don't know if Stan Bowman was or not in late 2010.
Because that would be unforgivable if he was.
Good question. I'll look it up.
I guess we'll look it up.
I think too, does it seem to you, Rick? And again, we're not. You're a facts-based person. We're not asking for Rick's hot take on this, but from what you have seen from the NHLPA in the past and previous incidents, and this incident, what's your best guess or fact-based guess on what happened here? Was it that the NHLPA didn't want anything to do with this? Did it get lost in the shuffle? Did they say, well, he's not a member, so, it's not our problem? Like, I think everybody rightly wants to know what happened here and how could this have happened? And is that even clear yet?
Don Fehr was hired in mid-December 2010 after a lot of upheaval at the union. And he says he's not denying that the conversation took place, but he says he doesn't remember it. Without passing judgment on Don Fehr, I personally could not imagine being in a situation where a hockey player told me that he was sexually abused by his coach and that I would ever forget that. I don't know what happened.
Sorry, just real quick. It doesn't look like Stan Bowman was involved.
Okay.
With the program at the time.
Good to know. Then Rick, I mean, again, there's a lot to talk about here, but with Stan Bowman stepping down at both, the Blackhawks and USA Hockey, the question sort of becomes, in at least as USA Hockey is concerned, who takes over in the interim? And one of the other stories that you're working on right now has to do with Bill Guerin, who is the AGM, assistant GM at USA Hockey. And although there had been some disputed reports, Bill Guerin, if I'm not mistaken, is under investigation for another sexual assault cover-up. Is that true?
The U.S. Center for Safe Sports has opened an investigation into him, yes.
Okay, and sorry, go ahead.
So that case is involving a coach named Jared Scaldi, who was working on the American Hockey League team affiliate of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the head coach there was Clark Donatelli. And what Jared says happened during one road trip, he went out for dinner with his wife, Erin, and Clark Donatelli. And that on the way back to the hotel, first Jared left to get a car or something, and so Clark was alone briefly with Scaldi's wife Erin, and according to Jared and Erin, Donatelli sexually assaulted her, touched her inappropriately. And then in the car, Jared sat in the front seat and Donatelli and Erin sat in the back seat, and the Scaldis say that he assaulted her again. And then finally later, when Jared took this to Bill Guerin and talked to him about it, Jared says that the response from Bill Guerin was to keep the reason for Donatelli's firing quiet. And Jared also says that the team punished him for reporting the assault and later fired him from his position under the guise of pandemic-related cutbacks. And yet, the Hockey News is now reporting that Bill Guerin's about to be named the general manager of the U.S. Olympic team.
So I was very confused because we talked about Bill Guerin at length on Wednesday, and then that story broke that supposedly he's been cleared. What does being cleared involve, and how clear is clear?
Again, we'd have to talk to the Hockey News reporter. I think they're relying on a statement from Bill Daly saying we expect him to be cleared. I don't know where Bill finds that confidence. The Safe Sport Center hasn't interviewed Aaron Scaldi yet. So how can an investigation be done if they haven't interviewed the complainant yet?
Right.
There's also been no announcement from USA Hockey that Guerin is going to be the new GM. So nothing's been done yet.
Right.
Yeah. It would be assumption to just make the report that he's the new GM when all of this is still pending.
Well, it's not as though USA or the U.S. Olympic Committee has a great history with that, as we've seen with the gymnastics program. So, and you know, frankly, I think is it John Van Beesbrooks that's making that call?
I don't know.
So, you know, there's some issues there. Rick, you know, I think when we look at these stories, first off, it's explosive, but then the second part is, as I said before, there is so much information for the average person to sift through. We're grateful for you have an article coming out every 30 minutes. It's like this is our job, and we're trying to keep up with you on this. So this is prodigious what you're putting out. But for us consuming this, and these are the things that I think a lot of people will want to walk away from this going, what do I need to do and what do I need to know? So I'll start with, what do people need to know about this situation? Obviously, we've covered Guerin, and I'm trying to get through all the major hit points here. You know, we could sit and get angry about all the statements that Quenneville and Bowman and all those guys made, but I don't think that would do our time with you, Rick, which is valuable justice. What do you want the average NHL fan to walk away from this with, if there's anything at all? Is there a message here? Not a message, but a lesson to be learned about this organization and this group of 32 teams and its governing body that you think people need to know as it pertains to assault, as it pertains to the treatment of human beings, and you know, the particulars, I guess, about, and I'm rambling here, the particulars, I guess, about these stories. What is it that are the key points that you think people really need to know, and what their key takeaways need to be at this point?
I don't know how to answer that long, rambling question.
Sorry, right? I'm sorry. I got lost.
But I'll tell you.
Rick, I'm very happy that you can still laugh this week.
Oh, shit, Rick. Oh my God.
Listen, I wondered through the summer if anybody was even paying attention some days. You know, I reached out to all the corporate sponsors of the Blackhawks. Crickets. You know, companies like CIBC and Anheuser-Busch, companies that I'm sure have commercials and websites that declare how they, you know, foster a culture of inclusiveness and support for everyone. Again, deeds versus words. The Florida Panthers have Joel Quenneville, who lied about what he knew, behind the bench. You know, who asked any questions there of their sponsors or of the team? I don't know. There are days that I find it hard to kind of understand why people, so many people, don't seem to want to engage on something like this that's so important. But then I try to remind myself, well, life's busy and it moves fast, and the news cycles click, 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 and we're on to the next thing. So maybe it's just people aren't noticing it, or they're missing it because, you know, we're all busy. We're navigating through the pandemic, and truthfully, like, I get that sports is an escape for so many people, and maybe part of the truth is it's just too hard to wrap your head around how you go to work, you know, and worried about your livelihood and feeding your family is what we really want to do when you get home from work, to navigate through stories about the Blackhawks sex abuse scandal. So, you know, I'm sympathetic to all of it. I know it's important, and I know that I have to do it because I've got a duty to the people that I've told I'll report their stories, to do the best job I can. But as far as the public, I hope they listen and watch, but I sort of have a commitment to do it either way.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that has come out is 30, I believe it was 149 or 139 interviews were conducted. 37 people refused to participate in the Jenner and Block investigation. I believe Ryan Rishaug reported that Duncan Keith, now of the Edmonton Oilers, was one of them. Do you know any other of the other 36 names and what their motives were for not participating?
No, I don't. Wouldn't you love to see when people, when Joel Quenneville's in a media conference and he says right off the top, I don't want to talk about this, no comment. Wouldn't it be great to see some more media members say, that's unacceptable. Why are you coaching tonight?
Yeah.
A little bit of pushback.
Yeah.
In the room.
Is it I wonder if it's a fear of loss of access. I don't know. They can't strip
in Florida. They can't strip everyone's media credentials, can they?
No, they can't. But they're lucky to have them there. The way the Panthers had been run up until a couple of years ago.
Laws in Florida are weird, Rick. I don't know.
But Rick,
yeah.
I think to that point too. Duncan Keith got on television and said he wasn't spoken to about the. He said I was not interviewed. He didn't say I denied the request to be interviewed, which is the actual truth. And then you have Jonathan Toews coming out and talking about what great guys John McDonough and Stan Bowman were. And you have Paul Maurice saying whatever the hell he said. And
that was word salad.
But bad word salad. Yeah. It seems that even in this moment, and the fans of these teams want the NHL to do the right thing. It seems like they just cannot bring themselves to do it. Do you understand, or do you have a sense of why players are so afraid? You mentioned it at the beginning of the interview. Nobody came out and said, I support him. Why is that? No active player, that is. Excuse me.
Hockey culture. How many times have we talked about this? It's a culture of conformity. It's a monoculture. It's a sport where you get in line and you dress the same and look the same and talk the same, not just in the NHL, but from the time you're a teenager, from the time you're 14. So how can we really expect anything more? It's interesting. I was reading a story, I think it was in the Players Tribune the other day, about a player on Norway's national soccer team who they had a training camp in Qatar, and he came to understand that there were real human rights issues in Qatar. And so he educated himself. And then he wrote a Players Tribune story about what he'd learned about what was happening in there and about how many migrant laborers had died building the stadiums that are going to be used for the World Cup soccer tournament next year. And then I looked at, I think I'm reminded of Enes Kanter, the NBA player, who's wearing shoes that say Free Tibet. And he's going on social media every day, challenging the Chinese government. Could you ever in a million years imagine an NHL player doing either of these things?
Not from what we've seen. Not yet.
I don't know if this is urban myth or not, but hasn't a player in the NHL been traded because he liked going to a library?
Dougie Hamilton.
That's the rumor with him is it was a museum.
Yeah, and John Shannon was the one that tweeted it, right? Mm-hmm. It was sort of like it came from him. And he's a guy that knows people. I'm not blaming John Shannon for it, but he was obviously told that by somebody.
Right.
So, yeah.
We take the point though, right? These are not people who are told to stand up for their principles. They're told to be accountable to the team, not to be a distraction. I don't know that you can have it both ways.
Wow. And did you have another question? Do you want to run in with that?
I don't know about a question, but an observation, because when I found out it was Kyle Beach, to the point of not wanting to stand out or anything in hockey culture, when I found out it was Kyle Beach, it made me extremely upset, and I was going to be upset no matter who it was. But I covered Kyle Beach when I was doing my first paid job in the industry for a junior hockey magazine. He was still in junior. This would have been before what happened in Chicago. But with Kyle Beach, there were perceived personality issues, right? There were perceived, he's got all the talent, but he gets out there and he gets into fights and he takes penalties and stuff like that. And I remember he got traded to a team, and sort of chuckling with the GM through the questions like, oh, is Kyle going to behave himself this time? And knowing that is the sort of thing, and this is where power dynamics come in. That is the sort of thing that Brad Aldrich held over his head. When he said, I can ruin your career, he was going to take that vague reputation and hold it over his head, even though he was trying to do everything in his power to get better. He was talking to the video coach. All he wanted to do was get better and try to play in the National Hockey League.
Brad Aldrich figured out what his point of weakness was, or whatever you want to call it, the way to get in, and he exploited it.
The vulnerability.
Yeah.
The vulnerability. Thank you. Yeah.
Over and over.
I remember talking to one of the guys on that Blackhawks team about this, about how, like, some people might say it was just the video coach. Like, what power does a video coach have over him? And I think it was Jake Dowell. And Jake Dowell told me, listen, the video coach has the ear of the head coach of Quenneville. And if you are one of those guys near the bottom of the roster, you are so desperate, you'll do anything to get on that team and stay on that team. And if the video coach is somebody who can be your ally and help pump your tires with the head coach and tell the head coach what a good influence you are on the team and in the room and how hard you're working, then you're going to have a trust with that person. And again, this is the vulnerability that a predator, a sexual deviant like Brad Aldrich, exploits.
Yeah. This is, I'm assuming, Rick, that this is not over. From what we've gleaned, I mean, there are people out there saying right now that Don Fehr is done at the NHLPA. I don't know if I believe that, but there are people that are saying already he's got to go. This can't happen.
It's been the rumor for a couple of days.
Yeah. Do you anticipate? You know how the news cycle works, and it's good in one way and it's ugly in the other. Is that the world moves on very quickly, it seems. Do you expect there to be more bombshell information? Number one, I guess. And number two, how do we keep this top of mind going forward? Because you've worked in the news your whole life. You were a correspondent in Afghanistan. You've done everything that a journalist that does hard news has to do and does. What do we need to do to create change and continue to hold these people accountable? Because I know Gary Bettman is hoping that we all move on from this quickly.
Keep talking about it. Make a commitment to keep covering it, right? Keep having the discussion. Why haven't we been talking for 2 years about where Akeem Aliu's report is and asking the NHL, where's the report? What are you working on? What's the delay? Right? And maybe that kind of a commitment to following stories as they fade away in our memories, because like we said, life moves fast. Maybe that's one way.
Mm-hmm. Have you reached out to Gary Bettman and Bill Daly to talk about this particular situation or Akeem Aliu?
I contact the NHL all the time. I just don't hear back from the NHL.
Okay. I figured that might be close to the answer. Well, Rick, listen, we know that you have turned down far bigger outlets than ours to be on this show out of the kindness of your heart. We know you're exhausted. We know that we've taken up 45 minutes of your time. So before we part here, I just want to say, on a personal level, it's been a real pleasure since this summer getting to know you as a person. It's been an unbelievable learning experience watching what your reports have come out with. I know everybody feels the same way. And I just want to say on behalf of the people that can't thank you, because I'm sure you've got a ton, thank you for continuing to go with this story and others like it. Thank you for what you do. Your work is very much appreciated, although I'm sure most of the time it doesn't feel that way. And we really just genuinely want to thank you for being on this show.
Thank you. Back at you guys. I remember in the summer, when we did our first interview, and I was in Bracebridge at the Fall Fehr in the barn.
Yes.
And it was a great it was a great way to talk to a new audience about this, because like I said, there hadn't been a lot of mainstream attention. So credit to you guys, like Adam, Steve, and Jess, like credit to you guys for pushing yourselves. I know this isn't an area that everybody's comfortable with or feel like they have the right training to tackle as a subject, but how do we get better unless we challenge ourselves, right? To get into the uncomfortable, gritty areas.
Mm-hmm. Well done. Well, hey, thank you. And it means a lot coming from you. So Rick, listen, we're going to be in touch. We'll follow up with you. We would like to continue to see what this is or where this goes. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you publicly, we would love to have you back.
Yeah. If our job is to continue the hockey conversation about this, then that's what we'll do.
We will do that.
We'll fulfill that obligation.
I'll be back.
Keep being a problem, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a man. You and Katie are just on an island, and the entire hockey community is in debt to you.
Yes, absolutely. So, Rick, thanks again. Appreciate it. Until next time.
Rick, thank you so much. And thank you again for everything you've done, because I do believe from the bottom of my heart that we wouldn't be here today without your amazing investigation, with your amazing research and your reporting. Because when nobody else would touch this, not the big million follower insiders, not the NHL, you kept grinding. And without you, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you from the bottom of my heart and from my family. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Kyle.
So, as we wrap up here, we know what you come to this show for most days. We know that you come for what we had on Monday. We're yelling about the Leafs, right? And yelling about the NHL. And we know that Morgan O'Reilly signed his big extension today. We all have opinions on that. But it seemed disingenuous and just like not a fit to include that today. So we can talk about it Monday. There'll be some games to talk about. But everything this week, especially since Tuesday, has seemed to take a backseat.
Yeah. And I mean, geez, guys, I have a video up on my channel if you're that desperate for the Morgan O'Reilly stuff. But yeah, we'll be back Monday.
Right.
And like the beauty of this thing is there's another show. Like we'll be back in a couple days.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Every couple days you get a show from us. So if we don't hit everything this show, there's the next show.
Another show on the network that we suggest that you check out is the one that Chris Johnson and Julian McKenzie did yesterday. Mm-hmm. Insightful, soulful. I think Chris and Julian at their absolute best. And I think after you've listened to this, if you haven't listened to CJ's show yet, definitely one we want you to check out as well. Thank you so much for listening to this. I know Rick appreciates it, and I know that everybody surrounding who has worked on this story appreciates it, and the survivors themselves. So thank you for watching. Thank you for keeping it in the public domain, and we will be back on Monday. Sleep. It's important. Everybody needs a good sleep, especially these days. Life is stressful. I actually read an article this week that one of the things that people do when they're facing seriously tough decisions in their lives is they have a nap. It's something I've always done, and I thought it was just because I'm sleepy all the time, but it actually helps your brain compartmentalize things in your head. And I always feel like before you make a big decision, it's good to sleep on it. Turns out that's the healthy way to do it. And if you want to get a great sleep and let your brain rest and compartmentalize and help you make the best decisions that you possibly can, I'm going to recommend Helix. Helix Sleep has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete and matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Why would you buy a mattress made for somebody else? With Helix, you're getting a mattress that you know would be perfect for the way you sleep. We had to do a quick edit there because producer Jesse had to show me what the homepage looks like, and it's quite nice. It actually says, "Welcome Steve Dangle listeners." And here's the deal. If you use the code SDP200, you can get $200 off any purchase of $17.50 or more with the code SDP200. If you want $150 off, minimum purchase of $1,250, SDP150. To get $100 off any mattress at all, just use the code SDP. And by the way, every single order comes with 2 free dream pillows. So again, it's helixsleep.com/SDP. Check out the promo codes. Pick the one that works best for you. Get the mattress that works best for you, that's made for the way you sleep, and get the rest you deserve. It's fall, which means football season is in full swing, and for many of us, there's no better way to enjoy the games than by having a little skin in the game. A little skin. which is why BetMGM remains the exclusive betting partner of The Athletic. As a fan of The Athletic, you can bet $10 and win $150 plus a free 3-month subscription or extension to your subscription for people who are already subscribed, like moi, with The Athletic when you bet MGM and use the promo code. Just sign up at betmgm.com and use the promo code TheAthleticPod at checkout. That's it. Got the special offer, the King of Sportsbook, $10 to win $150 plus 3 months free at The Athletic or a subscription extension. It's betmgm.com using the promo code TheAthleticPod at checkout. It's a new customer offer. Visit betmgm.com for all the terms and conditions.
21 years of age or older to wager. Arizona, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia only. Excludes Michigan disassociated persons. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, Washington, D.C., Nevada, Wyoming, and Virginia, 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan, 1-800-GAMBLER in Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Call or text the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789 in Tennessee or call 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana.
Listen, you've heard me talk about Manscaped a bunch of times. And given the seriousness of this show, I think you'll understand that I'm just going to give you the straight up goods. They are the world leaders in male grooming. So if that's something you're looking for, or if you're tired of using what you're using, Manscaped is the place for you. It's manscaped.com. Use the code DANGLE. And really, if you want the best, you should just get this. Accident-free. The package actually is pretty amazing. It comes with the tools that you need to get the job done. And of course, some deodorizers and a really nice pair of boxer briefs too. I'm a boxer brief guy. I love it. And honestly, if you go to manscaped.com, use that promo code DANGLE, get 20% off and free shipping. I don't know how you could find a better deal. So check it out. Everywhere across the world is using this, and you should too. 20% off and free shipping with the code DANGLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code DANGLE. Don't miss out on this. It's the best. You may as well shop for the best and get yourself the best because you deserve it.